Hello, everyone, and welcome to our demonstration of Document Capture by Continia Software. We're very excited to be demonstrating our product today. Please let us know if you have any questions after the demonstration. Document Capture is geared for digitizing your document management process, specifically focusing on the capture, approvals, and archiving of these documents. We'll step through a quick slide deck to kind of introduce the product, and in about 5 minutes or so, we'll jump into the Business Central environment and start working with the product and showing kind of the value that it adds to your processes. During the demonstration, we are going to focus on the accounts payable process. So, of course, optimizing data entry through OCR, or optical character recognition. So we have scanned in a few example documents for us to review. We will also be reviewing the full life cycle of these documents, so we'll be sending them to approval and posting them, and highlighting the digital document archive and the fully searchable features of these documents that have come through. And of course, we'll talk about the approval processes themselves in more detail and some of the enhancements that we've made to this process. Approvals, of course, are aligned to help you control costs. So we've made our own approval processes, we've extended standard BC functionality, and we've also had our own web approval portals made available that will help also control what these users see and can interact with. In addition, you're able to match against existing transactions in the system. So if there is a purchase document that matches, we can pull that information directly, and we can also use any previous approvals that may have occurred, as long as the total dollar amounts are within a variance, to automatically match the resulting invoice that we're creating. Continia has been in the Dynamics market for over a decade, and during that time, we've been 100% built for and within the Microsoft ecosystem. As we like to say, we're built inside Dynamics. Not only does that mean that it's easier for the finance users to come to terms with, because there's not any additional products, third-party software, or additional apps that we're supporting or you have to learn, but it's also a tighter integration and better support for your business processes. There's no data synchronization or mapping that's occurring, and all the business logic is run in BC as if you were entering the transactions manually yourself. The product is also highly extensible through the front end or the user interface. Any new fields made available through either customization or other vertical solutions can be easily added to your product, and all Business Central logic or code changes are included natively. We support all versions of NAV in BC, NAV from 3.7 up, and all versions of BC on-prem or cloud. To walk through how we process on these documents, we'll look at different ways that we support receiving documents. So if you have paper documents coming in, they can be scanned through a network scanner. Otherwise, documents can come in as attachments to email addresses. These can be unique per document type and per company, or they can be shared across multiple companies, and our system will look for data and split them automatically. Lastly, you can also send electronic invoices or XML documents directly into the system, again, as either an email attachment or as a flat file load, and the system will pick up and process these. We'll talk about both these PDF and these XML documents today in the demonstration. Once these come into our system, they are going to be processed automatically by the OCR engine, and then made available for import into Business Central. This is really where Continia will pick up on the process. We'll help add value to these documents and help you build transactions or match them to master records existing in your system. We're going to be focusing on the AP side, or the purchasing side today. These are vendor invoices coming into the system. In the demo environment, we have not seen these documents before, so we'll be creating new templates and working with these vendors as they're brand new to us. The AP side does have a master template that controls what information we want to see and how we process these documents. The first thing we do with a new vendor is we make sure the system recognizes that vendor, and then we teach the vendor-specific template what information is unique or valuable for this vendor. Once this has been done, we're able to register the document from our document journal. This will create the resulting purchase invoice on the AP side. That can then be edited or sent directly to the approval process for review. Once we've made it through the approval process, the document is now in a release status and ready for posting. And of course, you keep all the digital information about these documents, not only assigned to their transactions inside of Business Central, but also through navigation. All of these documents that come through our OCR engine will be fully indexed and searchable. So you'll be able to go back and search for text, not only that text that we captured and moved to Business Central, but literally anything that's on the document that was captured. Lastly, we will send documents out to approval. We have changed a little bit some of the feature sets that you have here, or expanded upon them. We have a new approval that is a batch system that will only notify you when you have a new approval entry submitted. Users will be able to log into either Business Central or our own web approval portal, and they'll share the same feature sets between the two. What's nice about our web approval portal is that it can be locked down. It is only focused on approvals. They don't have the distractions of a role center or a navigational pane that might lead them to other areas in Business Central. And we can also filter what GLs or dimensions or items these approval users are able to actually interact with from the web approval portal. That's the end of the slides. We'll close this down and open up the Business Central environment. And here we should be looking at a familiar interface to you. This is Business Central Cloud. You'll notice that we are in a role center dedicated to document capture itself. However, these activity centers can be added to your own role centers, and these page parts or fact boxes are also something that can be added to the role center. You can search for these or add them to your navigational pane as well. As you can see, we've had documents automatically come into our OCR engine. These were processed by the system. They then are automatically able to be imported into Business Central for you to process. And once that's done, they show up in what we call our document journal, where we apply templates to them and teach the system how to capture and how to process these individual documents. Once these are done, we're creating purchase invoices inside of Business Central, and these optionally can be sent out to approval, and we're just showing you that status there. All of these options can be automated in the future. You can see we do have manual actions here to import files or to send out status emails, but these will be running automatically in your systems. We have multiple document categories out of the box. We're going to be focusing on the purchase document category today. However, you can see we have other transactional document categories such as sales, which will take a customer's invoice and resolve to either a sales order or a sales credit memo. And we also have examples of master data. For example, GL docs will take a document and match it against general ledger entries, and contact will do the same against a contact inside of Business Central. Because we're built inside the system, these are very easy to edit or add value to, or to simply create your own document types that route in a way that you see fit. To start the process, we will open up our document journal and review these 15 documents that have come through. I do have a couple documents over in sales as well, so it's going to open up this page and let me review which document category I actually want to look at. This is a Continia only screen. We are still inside of Business Central, but we're not creating transactions at this point. We are reviewing documents and trying to apply repeatable processes to them so that in the future, these things just automate through the system and immediately send out to approval without any user interaction. We have multiple different types of documents to talk about today. You'll first notice in the document journal, we have an image of the document as well as a list of all documents, and then specifics about information we're trying to capture from this document. Again, this is all built from the master template to start, and then we go through and teach it if there's anything unique that we need to account for. Our first document here is a fairly basic document. We've captured some header information. We know some amount information, but we don't have any line details or anything else to really apply to this. The second type of document we'll look at today has more details, but of interest, it's actually referencing an internal PO number. So we could capture the lines here, or we could have the system reference this PO number and build those details from information already inside of Business Central for us. The third type of document we're going to look at today does have line information details and doesn't have any way to match this to an existing purchase order or purchase receipt inside of Business Central. In these cases, we will actually capture these lines and then either translate them or set the system up to allow these item numbers into the system so we can create our invoice. These are all examples of PDF documents. So these are vendor invoices that have been either mailed to us or emailed into us. However, if we want to talk about the electronic documents, we can look at some of these XML examples. You'll notice this is no longer a vendor invoice coming through. This one's a credit note, but these are no longer vendor documents coming through. Instead, it's our interpretation of the XML document. What's nice about these is we're no longer having to grab data from the document. Instead, we're looking directly up to the XML path or the schema, and these are, of course, repeatable. So we know what information is on the document, we know what you might need to add to your template, and we can help you through this process in a little bit more automated way than the PDF. Let's go back up to the top and start processing against Lewitt's Home Furniture. As I mentioned, this is the first time we've seen these documents or these vendors. So the first thing to do would be to create a new template off the master for this specific vendor. This will inherit all of the fields down here in the document header or the document line section. And the first thing we'll do is simply go through and review them. When I click on these fields, you can see the system is highlighting in orange the caption and in blue the data value I'm trying to bring in. Behind the scenes, there are translations and rules and captions that can be defined. You can even build formulas to reference these fields and calculate automatically. But the first time, we just want to make sure that we've calculated data correctly. Now, I've brought in an amount excluding tax or a subtotal for $4,500, and the system wants to know how to route this. I haven't captured lines. I have not matched it to a PO. Instead, I've simply given it a single GL account and told the system to remember this for the vendor. So next time we see this document come in, it will be able to grab all of these included fields and know how to route this on the purchase invoice. In this case, we're going to create a single line against GL account 8330 for the entire subtotal that we're processing against. We do have additional data. For example, this is a miscellaneous account. If I wanted to change the description, I could always click in posting description and grab something from the document by left clicking and dragging to have this be identified and then repeatable in the future. Once I'm happy with the document or once I've built a comfort level with the system, you either manually register this document or the system can be taught to do this automatically. We'll go to register, and at this point, we are creating the Business Central transaction. So we're back into more or less standard Business Central. We're showing you the open purchase invoice that's been created. We've brought in the vendor information, the dates, as well as the unique invoice number. The purchaser code, in this case, will be used to route to approval. And we've brought in some amounts that we've captured from the document as well. Please note that we've created a single line against the GL account 8330 with the posting description that we captured and against the entire subtotal we captured on the document. I can, of course, edit these documents because they are status open should I want to, but that's not going to be something automatic or that document capture can repeat in the future. It's intended that you make those edits directly on the templates. Once I'm happy with this, we can send this off to approval, or if you're not using approval, you can simply release and post this resulting document. I'll send this off to approval, and hopefully we'll have a chance to catch up with it in just a minute. Back in our document journal, you can see we have other example documents from this same vendor, although as this is the first time they've come in, the template wasn't available initially. I can simply go and process and recognize fields on these documents. You can see it will identify the vendor for me, create the template or update the template. And if I look through my fields, we can see all relevant information that I captured on the last one, including that posting description, remain on the document, even though the data sets have changed. This document, all fields are marked as okay. The document itself is marked as okay and could either be auto-registered or manually registered at this point. The second example we have, again, we've captured data from the header section. The only difference here is that we haven't defined a GL account number to move this subtotal to. Instead, we're matching to a purchase order, which should have details or line information that will help us build these details out. The system will run these matches automatically. As you can see, it's found an amount and a PO number, and that's all it's matching against. We fully matched against an order, and we can check on this process by going to match lines and looking at either receipts or orders that we're matching against. In our case, we can filter against our specific order number, and we can see the lines that we picked up and mapped to. This means when we create our purchase invoice, we will be using this item and these GL accounts to map the invoice lines. You're able to manually edit these as well, so if you want to build a manual match, but there's a lot of tools in the system to help build automatic matches depending on the data or depending on the amount of volumes you do with your vendor in a month. Again, we will register this document by clicking on Process and Register. And you'll see the end result is again an open purchase invoice, but this time more information or more detailed information has been brought directly from our purchase order in the system rather than having the system capture this for us. Once again, we'll send this off to approval and carry back on with our documents. The third document is where we did have line details. So once again, we're capturing header information. We have a subtotal, and we're not moving this to a single GL account. Instead, we're capturing lines and making sure they add up to this amount excluding tax. To capture lines, I would move from the document journal to my document card. It's a similar view, but focused only on this one vendor document. And you can see here, I now have a line sections I can interact with. Just like the header fields, I can click in these sections and tell the system what a column header looks like, which fields are required, and also I can build formulas or translations or captions to help the system. In this case, because the vendor is sending us iPad and mouse and headset, these are not Business Central items, so we've built a translation here directly from the document to tell it what to do with these items. In the future, next time we receive a document from this vendor, it will already know how to handle an iPad, a mouse, and a headset. In addition, if the vendor is sending you your own item numbers, that will be handled internally. And if these are repeatable, or if you already have item cross-references or vendor items, which are standard tables set up in Business Central, we will check those tables first to see if this data exists. And again, once we're ready to process on this, you can see we can just go to register. Again, creating an open invoice against the items that we brought in and the descriptions, but map to the items that we translated. Process, approval administration, and send approval request. Back on our document journal, we do have some other examples here. If we quickly go through and process and recognize fields, you'll see the system is able to recognize these in full. Even if we have some slight variances in the layouts, the system is still able to go through and recognize this. Now, in this case, we had more items than the 3 I had mapped in the previous example. So the system is just reminding me I have additional translations that need to be built or told that these are valid VC item numbers. If we look at our XML documents, again, we can see the same level of detail, but how we interact with the document is a little bit differently. Instead of capturing from the document like we did above, we are going to be defining the XML paths, and these, of course, will look up to the schema, and you can see it's very clear what information you're trying to pull and what information is available on the document, including the line information. You can also see the system, just like with the PDFs, is running validation logic. So in this case, we've pulled a due date directly from the XML document. However, the payment terms inside of Business Central for this vendor said the payment term should have been current month, meaning the due date should be the end of October, not the beginning of November. This is not going to stop us from processing. Just wanted to highlight that because we are embedded inside of BC, we are able to run logic or validations against known data or known entities. We'll notice that these 3 documents are all the same vendor. However, the first 2 are working without issue. The last one is having a problem. Again, we can review the data, but everything looks okay here. But because this is an XML document, we know there are additional fields on the document that we're not accommodating on our template. In this case, it's telling us our amounts do not add up. So the subtotal plus the tax does not add up to the grand total. And it's telling me there are discounts and charge elements that are on the XML document that we're not accounting for. We could simply go into template and look up to our master template to add any additional fields. So let's add our discount charge. We can see this has now been added and of course brought directly from the document itself, and the system is now recalculating against these amounts, and we're missing one more field here, and that would be our cleaning charges. So now that these have all been built, the subtotal plus the additional charges here all add up to our grand total, and we're no longer seeing an error that our amounts don't add up. We do see translations for these two new fields that we've added. Similar to the subtotal going to a specific GL account, we can build translations for these header fields by simply defining them here. These could move to a GL account or an item or what have you. It can also be assigned to a distribution code, which is a template which can be split repeatedly by percentage or by unit cost. So multiple different ways to handle or to route these types of charges. As we've been processing on these documents and sending them over to the approval email users would have been receiving emails and a link directly to our approval portal. We'll take a quick look at this before the end of the demonstration. And of course, it has signed itself out, so we'll just reload it. So I would log into either Business Central or the web approval portal. It will send me an email that will link me directly to my preferred approval client. I'm immediately greeted with a list of the documents that have been sent to my user. I can either batch approve these by clicking and just clicking on the approve button, or I could drill into them for a little bit more detail. We're going to see the same level of information that's available to you in Business Central. And you also have the ability to control what information displays on the web approval portal. The header information, what line information is displayed, can the users interact with this? And if they can, what data can they actually select from? Here you can see, again, we have the image of our document to review, some details from the header information, as well as some information about our approval flows. In our case, we are routing by a purchaser code by dollar amount. Because this document is over $5,000, it's requiring a second level approver to engage. There's many different ways that we can implement approvals, and we're happy to talk to you guys about what might fit your business processes. I'm able to add attachments and comments to these documents. I can also view these directly from the web approval portal should I want to. Everything that we're doing or changing here is happening in real time with Business Central through our web services. You can also give users the ability to edit documents. So for example, my user might be able to edit items or GL accounts, or only a subset of those. It might be my responsibility, if this is not repeatable, to go through and add dimension information to these lines, such as the project code here. And we can see my user only sees 3 of these project codes, which is a filtered list in the system. When I'm ready to move forward, I can approve the document, I can reject it, I can forward it in multiple ways to different users, or I can put it on hold. The first 3 options will all remove the document from your approval. You will not see this document and not get emails about it anymore. On hold, we'll keep the document assigned to you, but we'll notify users of what's going on, and we'll stop the system from sending you emails. Even if the document becomes overdue, it knows you've put it on hold, you're working with the vendor to resolve whatever the issue is, and you'll get this posted and paid as soon as possible. We can simply approve this document, and it will take us directly to the next document waiting our approval. Again, we see the same level of details and just decide whether or not we approve or reject, or how do we handle this. In this example, we've processed against a single line. This is perfectly fine. If we had repeatable types of translations that we could do against either a percentage or amount, we could also engage these through use of a template. This is the same distribution code we looked at in the document journal, just also available here for the approval users. I can either replace my existing lines, or I can keep them and update, and will distribute the following amount across this code. We have 1 line now. When we hit apply, you'll see the system has broken this out into 3 lines, which can all have unique numberings, or items or GL accounts, or unique dimension codes as well, and this has been broken down by a percentage. Again, when we're happy, we'll simply submit this to approval. In addition, these users will be able to see a full archive of their documents. These are all posted documents in BC, either every document or just those documents that they've been involved in the approval process. And they'll be able to set out of office responses. So if I know I'm going to be out of the office next week, I can always come into the web approval portal, tell the system what time I'm going to be out, and select a user to approve on my behalf. During this time, any emails or approvals that would normally come to me will be shared with this other user, so we don't stop our process and we release and post documents in a timely fashion. Now that I'm done with approval from the web approval portal and I have nothing left, we'll drop back over to the Business Central client and show just a little bit more about approval inside of Business Central. We did notice a few documents had a second level user. I'm currently logged in as that second user, and from Business Central, I have the same type of view where I can approve, reject, forward, or on hold. I can I can edit the document, I can add comments, or I can set my out of office just like I can from the web approval portal. The only difference here is that I'm not going to be able to restrict what these users interact with, which GL accounts or dimension codes they can see. Once this is okay, I can simply click on approve, and now we're going to have released these invoices. So if we take a look at our purchase invoices, they're all going to be in a status of released and ready for us to either manually post or have the system batch post throughout. We'll go ahead and run a process just to batch post all three of these. And then we'll talk about the digital archive, and that will be the end of our demo today. All documents were posted. We should be able to check up on them in the posted document section, specifically the posted purchase invoices. And these should be the last documents that came through. So we'll see Lewis Home Furniture, Colwood Technologies, and Electronics Limited are the three vendors we work with today. If we go and look at this posted purchase invoice in more detail, you can see the digital image of the document is consistent. And also, if you navigate against these, so navigation is a standard Business Central feature. You can get to this from any transaction, and it will show you all related transactions in Business Central. For instance, the posted purchase invoice we can navigate to by clicking on this one or going to show related entries. We can also see our PDF document attached, as well as the template we use to process. So if we have questions or something wasn't correct, we can always go back and check the original document or the template we use to see where that mistake was made. What's really nice about navigation is I don't have to get to this just from the posted document. If I happen to find my ledger entries, which are resolved from that document, right, I can come in here and also navigate back against my the same entries. So from the ledger entries or from the posted transaction, you're able to get back to the same level of detail of all related transactions. I believe that's all we have time for in the demo today. Thank you, everybody, for your attention and your time. We hope to hear from you soon. Thanks.